Hi, I'm John Blackburn, and this is Entertainment Matters. This is a podcast for people who make live entertainment happen. I talk with people from across entertainment and beyond to explore how we think about our work and how we put that thinking into practice. My guest today is Matt Roberts, Director and Head Agent at Roberts & Day Management. We talk about Matt's route into agenting, the realities of representing performers today, and some of the challenges and opportunities currently shaping the industry. Along the way, we explore training outside of London, the role of Spotlight, some industry myths, and what performers, agents, and producers might do to start working better together. Please enjoy this conversation with the fantastic Matt Roberts. Matt, tell us, who are you and what do you do?
Hello. Thank you for having me. I am Matt. I'm the director and head agent at Roberts & Day Management. We are a talent agency who looks after and manages a cohort of actors across musical theatre, TV, film and voiceover. We've been running now for 10 years and we're based in London near Waterloo. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And we'll talk a lot more today about who you work with and how you do what you do and how you think about it. But one question I like to ask people pretty quickly is, what would be a favorite event, live event you've attended as an audience member? It could be a show, a play, a gig, anything.
So when I grew up a lot around music and especially sort of the sort of punk rock scene in Leeds, which was pretty much my kind of like musical upbringing, for better or for worse. So recently I went to the Lewis Capaldi coming back sort of tour after his big sort of stint away. And look, I love a gig. I love going to anything sort of musical or music related, especially if it's live. But that one there it was great music wise, but it was actually really touching because he spoke a lot about sort of men's mental health and kind of the struggles he's gone through as a performer. And actually, I think a lot of the time, especially when you go to those sort of things, it's so like big and expensive and everything's so showy that actually that kind of gets lost. But in this sort of instance, it was really lovely to kind of see him talk about it. Yeah, it was great. And his music's fantastic as well. So it was a really stellar night.
Oh, yeah, incredible. And you mentioned growing up and loving kind of the punk scene in Leeds. So I actually went to music college in Leeds. So what were some of the venues you might go to in Leeds? Were there any favorites? Were there any like favorite night?
Yeah, I feel like I distinctly remember going to the Cockpit quite regularly, which was under one of the bridges near the train station. It was kind of like a bit dark, a bit dingy, had that kind of smell of like stale alcohol from like 2 weeks before. But they used to put on artists who were either up and coming or were quite big, and maybe they were like supporting somebody somewhere else, or they'd just done a gig at like the arena in Leeds or something. And I saw all sorts like Mayday Parade, Tonight Alive, Unit 6, Paramore did like a little gig there at one point. And then you'd see these people kind of like doing theirs, and then 2 weeks later they'd be off supporting somewhere. I think I saw Charlie XCX there as well at one point, who
No way. Wow.
this was before she kind of became Charlie XCX she is now. It was very much like where she was sort of starting out and supporting artists, because I think then she went on to support, was it Ed Sheeran or someone on his Manchester Divide or Plus tour, whichever one it was. So yeah, she was great as well. So no, it was a really, really cool little venue. I think it's still going today, maybe not in the same capacity.
I really hope it is, because although it's not one that because it wasn't the kind of music that I was most into.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't the kind of music I was particularly into when I was in Leeds. A couple of friends of mine were going there like quite often. And yeah, that is a venue, even though I never went, where I would be upset if it was no longer operating. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I think for me in Leeds, it was the most regular things were the Hi-Fi Club. Do you remember the Hi-Fi Club?
God, yeah, that is a throwback.
Yeah, and the Wardrobe, which was
Wardrobe, yeah.
next to the music college, you know. Yeah. Oh,
There's
amazing.
another one
That's
as well, and I can't remember, but that was basically just like a big dingy pub sort of up at the top end of the student block of Leeds, which was always rammed. Yeah.
yeah, I think that was, I don't know, I don't know about you, but even when I was a student in Leeds, I was always really impressed by the range and the quality of music. Now, even when I was a student in Leeds, all the people that had been there years before were telling me how much it had dropped and got worse, and oh, it used to be amazing. And I'm going to do the same thing now. I feel like maybe there are fewer venues doing all of that stuff, but it was an incredible town to go and hear live
Mm.
stuff and live music in. So
Yeah, you had
yeah,
a really lovely mix as well of like the rocky stuff and then the classical stuff with the town hall and the cathedral and stuff as well it was always a really good strong mix of kind of your classical straight through to your kind of like rocky poppy sort of stuff all the way through to your kind of drum and bass. And yeah, no, it was really good. It's a great city
yeah.
to grow up in. Yeah, I
Uh,
was very lucky.
and also as a as a musician like studying in Leeds, there was also an incredible amount of like stuff that paid a bit. It wasn't just like, I mean, there was incredible like originals things. Like I used to kind of originals in the sort of soul and funk sort of universe, the wardrobe and the hi-fi. And then of course because of the college, there was so much on the jazz side of things as well, like at a really high level. So yeah, Leeds, yeah, a great town.
Yeah, it's really good. I was very very lucky to grow up there.
Yeah, amazing. Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Pat. And returning now to your work and Robertson Day. So, um, yeah, what is it that sort of led you to setting up Robertson Day, and what was your sort of journey to where you are now?
So I knew I wanted to do something within the creative arts. Wasn't really sure what. Thought I was going to go join a pop band or a rock band or something. Musical theatre and theatre was never really on the sort of the horizon. I'd done like dance and singing since I was in primary school, so I knew of that world. But I just always enjoyed it. It was never something that I thought I could make a living from. Um, so when it came to picking schools and stuff, I sort of looked at things like GSA, MapView, all the rest of those, and I got offers for quite a few of them, which I was very lucky to get. But then when it came to the funding side of things, I didn't get a scholarship, so I couldn't afford to go. So then I looked at the same sort of courses, but at other schools. I ended up going to a college in Blackpool, which again, being from up north didn't really phase me at all. I know when you say Blackpool, people are like, "Oh God, no, not Blackpool, heaven forbid." No, especially like now having lived down near London for quite a while, if I say Blackpool, they suddenly get these like horror story images in their head. But actually, it has its quirks and it is a interesting place. But I actually really enjoyed my time there, and the people that I met there. So I had a great time. I did 3 years there, and then in second year, I started to think about what do I want to do, kind of when I'm graduating. I knew that I enjoyed performing, but I knew that it wasn't really the long term thing that I wanted. So I started to reach out to agents. Or started to try and learn as much as I could. So I asked my tutors at the time, what can I do to kind of progress and develop and keep learning? And the head of year sent me an email basically going, these are all the things you need to know to be a successful actor. Go learn them. And it was basically learn who's in shows, learn who's casting them, learn the industry like the back of your hand, be able to have enough in your brain so that if someone talks to you about it, you can talk about it back. So I did. I started to reach out to people in London. But back then, emails were a thing, but like, you tend to email it get lost very much like it does now. So I went down to London with my CV and headshot printed off and just started knocking on doors and seeing if I could try and arrange a meeting with somebody. I got the coach down. I remember it specifically being about £15 or something for a megabus. And then I started knocking on doors. I got very lucky and met with Marcus Ellard, who used to work at Simon and Howe in town. And he offered me representation, but at the same time, he also helped me out and started to teach me about agenting and about that world. So there was him and a guy called JBR, who headed up the musical theatre division for Simon and Howe. So I started doing some training bits with them, assistanting, interning, whatever you want to call it. And then carried on with third year, started auditioning at the same time, kind of finished in third year, went it straight into a show. And then when I kind of was about halfway through that sort of short run of that show, um, again, I was starting to think, what do I want to do? And a Playbill advert came up for Stewart and Whitley Casting over in America, who used to be the casting directors for like Finding Neverland, Chicago, Royal Caribbean. Like that was their jam. And I was like, what's the worst that can happen? I'll throw in my application. Didn't really think much of it, to be honest, at the time. Just threw an application in. And they came back and they were like, yeah, sure, we'll give you an interview. So one thing led to another. Kind of ended up getting to the final interview stage with them, obviously having never met them in person, because I don't live in New York. And they were like, look, here's the sitch. Like, we obviously have a bit of an issue because you're in, I was in Liverpool at the time. And they were like, but we will pay for your flights and your accommodation per diem to come on over. But obviously we can't pay you a wage because you're not American. So I was like, great, sure. Like I have no reason to stay over here, so I'll do it. So I went over there and did 3 months of kind of casting work with them, met some incredible people, learned the kind of casting world as it is through their eyes and kind of what they look for in agents over in America. But then also when they did Royal Caribbean, they were casting the cats over here. It was really good because you kind of then saw this is how your UK agents are, this is your Americans, your South Africans, your Australians. And they were like, we have to kind of piece this puzzle together. So that was really interesting. Did all that. And then sort of around a similar time, a friend of mine who was in Liverpool was like, man, it's so annoying. There's no agents in Liverpool. Like we all have all this talent. There's like Lipper and Liverpool Theatre School and Jelly Studios and Rare. And I was like, in Merseyside, Dance and Drama Centre. And I was like, yeah, it's weird. There's like a gap there almost. And then naturally, that's how it started. There's still the gap. Created an agency, very much like this is new, like, not expecting anything to happen. Put an advert out on the stage. And then I think probably in the first sort of 10 days, got maybe like 2 or 3 emails, let's say. Met with those people, kind of talked to them about what my idea was, a little bit about me and what I'd done. And they're like, yeah, sure, like, let's give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? And then 10 years later, here we are.
Oh, amazing. And when you say you talked to them a bit about what your idea was, yeah, what was that?
So representation to a standard that you would find in London with a London agency, but in the north with a northern agent designed to help northern working class performers achieve the same things that somebody who's been at Art Ed for 19 grand a year or whatever it is. That was the idea. Didn't sort of shy away from the fact that it was new and that it was very much going to be a bit of a learning experience and meeting people and all the rest. But yeah, it was really good, to be honest. It sort of started going quite well, and once I kind of got the first person on board, then I started to find that they would talk to somebody else who would talk to somebody else who'd talk to them, and you started then to kind of get interest and emails, and it was very much kind of before the days of Instagram where you can put like a story up and suddenly 5,000 people have looked at it. Now it's very much, when we put something up for rep now, it's super easy because I could sit at home and hit a button and suddenly I've hit, 30,000 people with a post. Whereas, yeah, then it was very much word of mouth and, oh, that person there knows them. So, yeah, it's interesting to see how it's changed over the years, but that was kind of how it grew.
Yeah. And you mentioned there about bringing, to slightly paraphrase you, that your sort of London type of representation
Mhm.
to, am I right? You said sort of working class actors and performers.
Yeah.
So what was the uh and you've been doing this for a long time now and things have developed and all the rest of it. What was the opportunity that you saw there, or what was the problem, or what, do you know what I mean? You
Yeah,
found a
yeah.
very specific, I'm going to call it a mission. I'm not sure what you would call it, but you've you've found a very specific sort of why and a reason to do something there. So carry on. Like, tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I mean, when I talk to actors now, I always talk about them having like a unique selling point, like a USP. And I think it's very easy to start up an agency nowadays. There's always like another one popping up or something, which is great. But when I sort of made it, I saw there was an oversaturation in one big area, London, and then very few kind of anywhere else. So the idea was that whilst my training was fantastic, I very quickly started to realize that everyone else was being introduced to casting directors and auditioning from first, second, and third year. And even now, when I talk to graduates and I sort of ask, "Oh, have you done many auditions?" People from certain drama schools will be like, "Oh yeah, I've had like Cameron McIntosh's team in, or David Gilmour was in last week, or oh yeah, I went to that audition." Whereas anything that I went for audition wise, I had to kind of graft for and sort of bring in myself. So it was very much a case of cool. Okay, you've got this pool of actors, maybe 5 or 6 actors, all with varying levels of experience, some new, some sort of getting along there, and then going, how much exposure have you actually had to the casting world? Because I knew in my head, I've seen what casting directors are like and how they filter through talent. I know what we're looking at on Spotlight. I understand that side. So then it was, okay, how do I get these people's faces in front of the casting teams that I know from kind of working with them and almost bridge that gap slightly? Um, I found that things like Blood Brothers or was a really big one, obviously being in Liverpool. The Royal Exchange was really useful. And a lot of casting directors would lean onto oh, we need someone who's a native Northern or native Scouser or native Manchester or filming in Manchester. So started to reach out to casting directors like Emma Stafford or Lee Mountjoy, who are both Manchester based, or the team over at Jill and Pete over at Line Pictures, and being like, look, we're in Liverpool. You are a Liverpool based production company who specifically need people who are from Liverpool or can base in Liverpool. I was like, can you not see all the things just coming together in a nice little circle? Um, so yeah, it was kind of that, and then I ended up getting roped into the team at the Hope Street Theatre, and then that kind of started off a few of the bits as well. So that conversation kind of grew, but at the heart of it, it was we have a bunch of people who are talented, but maybe for whatever reason they didn't go down the drama school route or they haven't done that, and trying to build that bridge between them where they're at now and where they kind of need to be room wise and talking to the right people wise.
Yeah, thank you. And we had a conversation, in sort of in preparation for this recording, and um, you spoke about some of the challenges that people can face when they're not already in the capital
Yeah.
fundamentally. Um, and it's interesting to me hearing you mention Blackpool because, of course, not that long ago, in real historical terms, Blackpool was one of the teeming live entertainment, across the board sort of
Oh yeah,
meccas
yeah.
in the United Kingdom, even in Europe, and it's interesting, isn't it, that uh, so of course there should be a performing arts school there. There should be courses there because for such a long time, you could probably, I mean, I don't know, maybe the courses weren't around at this point, but there would have been a period of time where if you were studying in Blackpool, um, you probably then could have had a load of people from Blackpool with opportunities come in and just say, oh, okay, we'll have them, we'll have them, we'll have them. You
Yeah.
could have had it. You could probably, there would have been periods in British sort of entertainment history where you could easily just have a career in Blackpool, couldn't you?
Oh, easily. I mean, you've got so many great venues there, like the Winter Gardens or the Blackpool ballroom where they do Strictly and things. I mean, we did our third year show in that ballroom. We did West Side Story, and like, what a great venue to do a show in. Um, and then our graduation was in the Winter Gardens. So, like, the two fantastic venues. But I think, yeah, the current sort of Blackpool as it is now has kind of that sort of shine and sparkle that it used to have has sort of faded away. And I don't know. it probably just needs a large injection of cash and
Well,
some
but
actual work on it.
yeah, I mean, look, not the main point of this podcast for any stretch of the imagination, but I remember the first time I did of like a run of gigs in Blackpool, clang, and I just remember the hotels and accommodation choice it was horrible, and I just remember thinking, hang on a minute, this was the premier holiday destination in the United Kingdom for a really
Yeah,
long time. And there was plenty of money coming in. And what has happened is, and I suspect that this will be something we can say about other areas of the country, you know, um, what has happened is that money has not been over time mainly reinvested in making it better and better and keeping it up. Like that money has been taken from the industry that was Blackpool and removed somewhere else, hasn't it? Um, but like you say, yeah, I mean, what even just at the Winter Gardens, what have you got? You've got the Winter Gardens. Is it the Opera House, the Grand, and then you
yeah, the
come,
grandstand. Yeah,
yeah, and then you come what, like I don't know, 20 feet down the hill around the corner, you've got Viva, um, and then there's the big hotels,
yeah,
some of which have ballrooms or at least large
yeah.
it's yeah,
Oh,
it
it's
was
wild. They've got their own theme park,
yes.
like the Pleasure Beach, and then the water park opposite it. Like, as far as entertainment goes, yeah, it's wild. They have all the infrastructure there to do it, but there's just that kind of, I don't know, Blackpool taint or something. Like, it just doesn't. Something's kind of happened to it.
Honestly, Matt, I should get your if you think it's something else, I would love you to tell me, but, I honestly think it's that thing of there was for a long time, it was riding high on the, the money that will never end. So
Yeah,
nothing got reinvested or very little got reinvested. And then as fashion and interest change, I think do you know what I mean? Is it
yeah,
sort of so,
yeah,
that the numbers of people coming in started to drop off for whatever reason, probably being able to fly to Spain or whatever. Um, and at that point, they hadn't saved any money to make Blackpool the next version of Incredible. So
yeah. Yeah, I think I remember seeing something about it, and they did say that the advent and investment in cheap flights to Europe. Why would you go to Blackpool for 50 quid when you can go to Ibiza for 20? Like,
right,
and I
yeah.
get it. I get it. Like, why would you spend a rainy weekend in Blackpool if you could spend a sunny one somewhere else? So
Fish and
yeah,
chip.
it's a tricky one. I mean, their fish and chips are incredible, to be fair to them. So, yeah, but no, I mean, I loved it. It's got a special place in my heart. Like, I think I still go back there probably every couple of years. I went back just before they shut down the school where I went to. It all got sort of demolished. But I went back and met the head of year there, Mike Holdsworth, and ended up grabbing like a coffee and stuff with him and chatting things through. And we went for like a little look around the studios before it kind of got demolished the next day. And it was a really nice, like, little closing of that chapter. So yeah, I mean yeah, I had a lot of good memories of that school.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Um, moving us back to Robertson Day.
Mm.
Um, as an agent and looking after different people in different parts of entertainment, you have, I would say, quite a unique perspective on the industry. Even just representing and talking to lots of different kinds of people from the industry. So, um, I'll ask you this question from two perspectives. First of all, as an agent, what would you say the biggest challenges are today for agents
Mm.
in getting their people out there and opportunities and all the rest of it?
I think the oversaturation and under-regulation of our industry, and that's specifically the agent side of things. And look, I know we have the PMA; they're fantastic. We're very happy and proud to be a member of it. Um, but there is an issue, I think, and probably would be agreed with, that whilst the PMA is made up of, I don't know, 100 to 200 agents, there are probably 600 agents in the UK, let's say. I mean, they're very pulled out thin air figures, but, generalized terms. And I think that the oversaturation and ease of creating an agency, maybe with no experience of being a performer or being in the industry or having any training or anything, is causing issues down the line for, let's say you had 5 agents originally and 10 jobs. So that means every agent could have 2 jobs, and that commission would pay for, I don't know, a staff member or something. But then when you have 10 agents and the same amount of jobs, now every agent has 1 job, and suddenly that income stream is halved. But then let's say you then double that again, you've got 20 agents. Well, now only 1 in every 2 agents gets the job. So suddenly your agent stream is kind of getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but there aren't more jobs, and they're certainly not paying anymore. So you're kind of left in this weird place where you're battling against other agencies for not only clients, but also jobs. And it almost becomes ruthless to the point of, I will protect my clients and their interests, but also you kind of have to start thinking business wise and going, but I also need to make money here, and who's going to make me money for whatever reason that is. So sometimes I think, yeah, that oversaturation creates those sort of issues, but it also creates, I would say, safeguarding welfare, professional boundary issues. I think the lack of regulation in particular to, this is what an agency should charge commission wise, or, these are the rules and regulations that an agency has to follow. I think that it basically just does this, and every agent has a different rule. And I fundamentally don't agree with people being like, oh, well, you can't, tell a business how to operate, because I think you should be able to. And it's a regular sort of conversation we have at the PMA where, they can't say as a group of people, well, we're going to tell everyone this is how we run. But actually, we should get some rules and legislation in place where it goes, actually, this is how you can do it, and this isn't how you can do it. So yeah, it's a bit of a battle at the minute, I would say. And it definitely makes it very competitive. And it then makes it quite hard to, as an agent, then have friends who are agents. And obviously, over the years, I now have quite a lot of friends who are agents, and I try to help them out as much as possible. But there's always a part of you that goes, if I help you out too much, then I could be out of a job and you could be riding high. So it's a tricky one. But yeah, I think the PMA is getting things pretty much right 95% of the time. I think Equity are trying to do stuff, but probably not as successfully as our American counterparts. I think Spotlight is a huge issue. I don't particularly love it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we are an industry of opposites. We have some fantastic things and some really annoying things, and then the middle is kind of just a bit of a mess, sort of in between. So, yeah. But I found as the business has kind of grown that I almost have lessened my worry about agent concerns, and my business concerns have gone up, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird shift for me personally. And it's interesting to then see the agents who now work for me to then be experiencing the issues I used to have when I was just in agent mode. Whereas now I'm like, okay, cool. Are we hitting all our points that we need to hit? And are things being done properly? And are we complying with the rules and regulations? So yeah, it's an interesting one.
This question isn't meant in quite the challenging way it might sound,
Mm-hmm.
Matt.
Far
But
away.
no, no, no. I just I remember being in Newcastle or Leeds, for that matter, as a sort of a young musician, and every every generation of musicians at some stage would say to the next one, "Ah, well, it's not like it was 10 years ago."
Yeah,
Right? That's the classic thing, isn't it?
the classic line.
Right, right, right. And also every generation, my generation of musicians in one of those towns would would say the corollary, which would be like, "Oh, well, it's harder now because there's fewer gigs and there's more of this or there's more competition or the rest of it." All of which, of course, are true.
Hmm.
But do you think there's anything in that, in terms of the saturation? Is there I suppose what I'm asking is, okay, there are more agents who are around, fewer jobs. Every 10 years, you could probably say that. What do we do about it?
I I don't necessarily think that more agents is a bad thing because more agents brings more ideas, and ultimately, agents who've been around for 50 years are going to retire, and there's going to be a gap in the market. Fine. I think I think the PMA have some fantastic rules and regs and ways that we have to agree to work, um, which benefits not the agent but the actors who you look after, because ultimately that is who your priority should be. So things around like notice periods or sunrise provisions or how we deal with other agents or safeguarding policies around schools or things like that, all super useful and actually benefit me on the daily because if someone has a question, I can go, well, actually, let me check that because there will be a rule about it. And if I don't know, I then have access to be able to go to all the agents in the PMA and go, has anyone got, I don't know, someone on the new job wick or something? Can you help me out with this? So it's really useful. I think to combat the issues that arise with lack of experience and oversaturation, those rules and regulations should be out there more and not hidden behind the barrier of we're part of the PMA, so we're this and these are our rules. They should actually just be this is best practice as we as an organization say this is how it should be. Yes, we're all members, but you have access to that thing, so you can all try and strive to do it. Because I remember when we applied, probably about 5-6 years ago now, they sort of send through this huge form of you have to tick all these boxes, you have to hit all these things, your contract has to abide by our rules and this and that. And I always thought, well, this would be really useful if that was just public access, like we all could have that.
Yes.
Surely that would be beneficial. Um, so it's one of those. I get it. They need to have something that makes them exclusive or whatever. But I think ultimately people will keep creating agencies, so we should be putting best practice out there so that if someone goes, you know what, I'm going to be an agent, then at least they can go, I want to be an agent. I'm going to get on Spotlight and apply for that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to try and abide as best as possible to the rules here, not the rules that are like written on the back of a cigarette box and someone's just going to do sort of thing.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
totally. And so sticking with that, I completely agree with you, by the way.
Yeah.
Sticking with that regulation thing then, as a member of the PMA, are you able to, and is that the Personal Managers Association? Have I got that right?
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So presumably you get to put a logo or a sort of certified by somewhere on your materials.
Yeah.
And again, this sounds like I'm making a point, but I mean it as a question, is part of that improving that situation across the board, is that as much an education issue for people coming into the industry and actors, etc., to know that if you're looking for representation, the best thing for you to do is find someone who has this PMA badge because
Mhm.
XYZ.
Yeah. I think a lot of the drama schools, bigger drama schools, will preach it and will be like, here's a list of PMA agents, make sure they're on that list. I think the more you move away from that and then go to like the universities and colleges, you then say the PMA and they suddenly go, what's that? And then you go, well, so I went to a uni last week, which I go to every year. They're fantastic, really, really lovely. And I sort of mentioned, so one of them said, I really want to be an agent. It's all I've ever really wanted to do. I was like, great. Well, then, let's have a chat. And also let's start, let's, start getting you involved and come and work as an intern for us for a bit. But I said, look at like the PMA, and it was like, oh, I've never heard of that. So I think there's just an education around it, which is bizarre to me because, as an organization, they've been around for years. So I certainly always knew about it, but I guess it's one of those things where I think, yeah, if you're not always as involved in it, and obviously I'm very lucky that I do this every single day. So, I have that element, but if you're not involved with it every day, daily, then why would you know about it, sort of thing? And I guess that comes down to the schools and colleges to be like, you know, from a safeguarding view, like alone, like it's worthwhile, because you hear all sorts of stories. So I definitely think safeguarding wise, they have some fantastic rules and stuff. And there's definitely stuff that we did before we got involved with the PMA, and probably afterwards, where we were still like learning and developing, where you kind of go, oh, actually, yeah, no, that does make sense. Like, yeah, you can't do that, or no, okay, we should do this, or we should do that. It just makes you better as people as well as agents. So
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that the difference, and you brought it up a couple of times, and you mentioned it in our previous chat. This sort of difference between the maybe some of the information you get formally or informally from a drama school, and for the benefit of the tape, I'm doing the inverted commas sign. Um, and again with the same inverted commas, a university course.
mm,
Um, and I suppose, yeah, I suppose is part of that the drama school in inverted commas ones, especially if they're maybe located closer to London, as we keep mentioning, they're sort of more in the industry, aren't they?
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
there's a even just geographically, there's a closer proximity to where the majority of work is getting done. So
yes,
so yeah, perhaps that's why they're more connected to things like the PMA. It's just
yeah,
that
one hundred percent.
they're kind of, yeah, they're in the game more. And yeah, so when you go up to do a talk at a university or something like that, um, obviously you mentioned the PMA. What other kinds of things? What other kinds of things are you helping make those students and those people about to come into the industry? What other kinds of things are you making them aware of that perhaps might be missed by a course that's not too sort of London centric?
The importance of starting to be proactive in their careers. So a lot of the time, I mean, I'll use this one as a perfect example. They have this weird kind of like thing, and I'm not even sure it's the unis that are telling them to do it. They just seem to have it ingrained in their minds, and it maybe comes from the fact that they are studying alongside people who aren't studying creative courses potentially. Um, but they will go. So, like, I spoke to a girl. I said, well, what do you want to do when you graduate? She went, oh, I really want to go work at Disney. Fine. Okay, cool. I was like, great. Okay, fine. Have you auditioned for them yet? Oh no, I was waiting till I'd finished in third year. Oh, okay. But they've got open auditions down the road, like next week. Why don't you go? Like, um, and the school, the teachers who were with me were like, yeah, you really should be going. Like, why are you not? She was like, oh, I just assumed I couldn't, or assumed I couldn't do that, or I've got a lot on with like uni. Um, and I get it. I think that the problem with the universities is that you are ultimately working towards getting a degree and an academic qualification. So you have to do things like dissertation, coursework, paperwork, all the rest of it. I get it. And the advantage of not doing the degree is then you don't have to do that, and all the rest of it. And like, I get it. Like, I got a degree, so I went through it. I did the boring like theatre study bit. It wasn't for me. I hated every second of it. But the course was laid out for me in a way that meant, we started at 8 o'clock, we finished at 8 o'clock, so we had 12-hour days. And through that, yeah, we maybe had an hour or two of theatre studies, but the rest of it was hands-on practical stuff. Whereas I spoke to the course leader there, and they're saying, well, they get like 3 hours a week of dance or something, and it's just not enough to then be like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a dancer, because it's just not. Like, you can't be a dancer on 3 hours a week, not a thing. So there's this lack of proactiveness, because I think in my head, if I was them, I'd go, great, okay, I want to be in Disney. Fine, okay, cool. I want to be a Disney performer. What do they need to be? They need to look like princesses and princes, and they need to be able to dance and interact with people well. And because it's Disney, they have this Disney aesthetic. So I need to go and hit the gym, and I need to work like an athlete to get there. And I'm going to, every time an open call comes through, I'm going to put my name forward and go for it. And I'll ask my teachers if I can miss the day of uni to go do that. But there's that lack of like proactiveness around them, which they need to break out of. And it's almost like you go in, and funnily enough, the head of year messaged me afterwards and was like, oh, just want to say thank you for coming along. But it's so funny. I say all these things to them, and they just go, oh, okay, yeah, the teacher's saying it. You come in and say it. And they're all like, oh my God, yes, this is, it's like gold dust. It's like, yeah, I know. Every school I've ever been to, ever, they don't listen to you because they're just like, you're my teacher. not realizing you've spent 30 years in the performing arts industry professionally, and this is just because, you want to have kids or whatever, so you've settled down. And then they go, oh, but this random person who's come in, who knows my teacher because of the performing industry, has then said something, and now you're like, oh yeah, it's like the words have been said from above. It's so funny. You see that on their faces all the time, but it's a really interesting. So being proactive, they sort of maybe don't do as well, and also seeing things as an investment. So, like, kids at London drama schools will have drilled into them, your headshots have to be top notch. They have to sell you like the first thing. Whereas at uni, it's a bit more like, well, you just need a headshot. And like, I felt foul to it. Like, I remember getting my headshots done by my housemate against like the vending machine and be like, oh, that'll do. It's fine. Not thinking, oh, I actually need to go research a photographer, find someone who knows the industry. Because ultimately, and I say it even to my professional people now, when you're going to get a headshot, you're not paying for the photo, you're paying for the knowledge that photographer has to go, okay, you want to be seen for Bridgerton. The casting director is Kelly Valentine. This headshot will get you in that room. And that's the kind of knowledge you're seeking from your photographer. But ultimately, your agent should also know that and help you through that. Whether they do or not is a different thing, but they should. So, yeah, it's that kind of like industry savviness, proactiveness. Um, And I also find, especially in the northern ones, and probably something I fell foul to quite a lot, is you have these money concerns where you go, there was a girl there who was really good, she was lovely, um, and she was like, oh, I want to go learn to be a singing teacher. I was like, oh, great, okay, cool. Like, why? And she was like, oh, I really want thinking she was going to be like, oh, I want to, help people develop their voices or blah, blah, blah. And she went, oh, I really just want a stable job before I start moving into being a performer. And it's a regular sort of thing where I don't know, whatever their background is or where they've come from or their life, they see I need stability before I pursue my passion. And I think that is something that is almost instilled in people from working class backgrounds because I've spent my whole life being like, I need stability and then I can pursue the other things. Even now, I'll be like, well, this life choice doesn't really make me happy, but actually it makes me stable. So I'm going to go with that. And then I'll deal with the happiness bit after. So it's an interesting one and one that kind of I talk to a lot of students about.
That's great, and thank you, Matt. And that sort of leads me into we've moved from talking about things, challenges for agents and management companies, and we've moved into talking about what some of the challenges are for clients. So you mentioned there some of the challenges of perhaps doing your training a little bit more removed from the industry, for example.
Yeah.
Um, what about, and I'm sure it will be some of the things that you've already commented on as well, but what are the biggest challenges do you think for your clients in the current, with where the industry is now?
Motivation to keep going following rejection. Um, I think it's quite a hard thing to do, swallow rejection, even on like a daily basis. And as actors, you're almost told you're going to be rejected, but that's fine. That's just part of it. But it's actually quite a hard thing to sort of process and deal with, and then be expected to just do. One minute I might say to you, "Sorry, you didn't get that job." That's that. And then 2 minutes later, I've said, "Oh, I've sent you a self tape though, by the way. So can you get back onto being professional again for me?" And it's a hard one. You're like, life is like a bit of a roller coaster. One minute you might be thinking, I'm about to make some money and be able to pay my bills. Then you're told, no, you're not. But then you're told, oh, actually, can you do a different self tape or an audition for another job? Um, so yeah, the welfare side, I think, is one of the hardest bits. And to be honest, it's probably one of the bits that takes up the most of my time is dealing with welfare, and like admin concerns and stuff. Um, Even today, there's been like 3 or 4 things where it's, taken up a couple of hours, which obviously then stops you from doing other bits, which is totally fine. Like I have no issue with it, but yeah, it's, I think, an underlying issue across the industry. Um, a lack of work or a lack of paying jobs that pay well. I think that falls then into the spotlight conversation. But, even today, there's probably been about 10 or 15 student films on Spotlight. And it's like, why? why are we putting those on Spotify? Like, you're not paying people, or you're not paying people properly. And it's, to then get that through. And obviously you're going to submit people because they need the work or they need the credits, but to then turn around to them and say, oh, by the way, mate, you're going to have to do like 3 rounds plus a self-tape and a screen test, and you're going to be paid like 30 quid for it. So, yeah, if you don't mind doing that for me. And it's a tricky one as an agent to then sit there and go, this feels wrong to be even asking this of somebody.
Can I ask you about
Yeah.
that, Matt? Can
Yeah,
just
yeah.
briefly, sorry, this is 100% counts as a tangent, but
Tangent away.
yeah, no, I mean, and there's probably just a really good answer for this that I just has escaped me. When it comes to people that, I mean, we all benefit from having more experience, don't we? But when we're talking about people perhaps at the beginning of their journey in the industry,
Mm.
where maybe they really, really do need some experience to get going. Just out of interest, why is there not a just a collective of friendly organizations, for example, at a management company and a venue, whatever ecosystem would be required to make this happen? Why is there not just a sort of combined in-house system to film a load of stuff where it actually is useful experience? It's not only useful experience for whoever wrote the film, why are we not just doing that ourselves?
Yeah, God knows. I think I don't know. I think a lot of it comes down to probably money and willingness to do it, maybe as well.
But I suppose what I'm wondering is, by the way, I don't doubt for a second that you are correct. I'm sure you're absolutely right. What it makes me think is, well, if you'll put that effort in first of all, as an agent, but also as a client, as an actor, say, in this particular context, if you'll put the effort in to go and do effectively 3 audition calls to then get paid 30 quid to do the filming or the days, whatever the work is,
Yeah.
could we not just phone a couple of friends and say, right, do it. We've got a room set up. Just do it there. Do it for free. Now, look, you're not going to get paid, but also it's not going to cost you anything. And then at the end of it, you're going to have the same quality of thing to put on your
Yeah.
CV or whatever.
Yeah. And I always say, people always get really, people use the student films in particular, I think are probably the issue, but people use student films as we're not going to pay you very much, but it's great experience. And my kind of argument is, well, is it because you're working with students? So where's the experience coming from? Because it ain't going to be the casting process, because you're never going to see a casting director. It's not going to be from the students, because they haven't got a clue what they're doing either, because they're learning. And probably the quality of the thing you're going to get isn't going to be beneficial to your CV. So why is this on Spotlight in the first place?
Why aren't the student film people I'm asking you, it's not, you haven't created this problem, but why aren't the student film people using students from their town, actor students from their town? So
and this would be my argument. Yeah. You
yeah,
clearly have people accessible to you. And they have these like equity student agreements, and it's like, great, okay, but you can't just slap the word equity on a crap agreement and then be like, this is going to be good. It doesn't work. And it's a trap to those people. And look, there are some which are fine. Goldsmiths do them, British Film Institute do some, National Film and TV School or whatever it's called. But it's still, it clogs up Spotlight. And I think almost the whole point of Spotlight is that it is not a job board, but a job board for where.
yes, it's been stated very clearly legally that it is not a job board now, hasn't it?
Yeah. Some smart lawyer somewhere's reveling in their money. The job board that isn't a job board. So, but if it's not a job board, then why are we posting people's contractual agreements on job postings? Because if it's not a job board, so it shouldn't be on there. But then also, the actors are paying £210 or whatever fee it is now, a lot of money to use it. So the projects that go on there should be of a standard that is reflective of that, not we're just going to put any job on there because somebody will take it. And that is the problem. We are working in an industry where there isn't enough work, so people will just take what they can, rightly so. Like, we've had actors do student films and stuff before, and it's a tricky one because they go, well, the pay's not very good. It's not really that, but I actually need a credit on my CV. Otherwise, nobody's going to take me seriously. So they just go do it. And it's fine. But what I find more than the pay is the safeguarding and welfare of the actors then goes out of the window slightly. And you get, especially rightly or wrongly, especially female actors in particular seem to be targeted more as we live in the current society we find ourselves in. And often it will be people then sort of following them up afterwards or entering into their personal spaces, and it just becomes problematic. So yeah, I think there's a real issue there, and I've probably now strayed into the spotlight talk and the rant about spotlight before.
I think anybody listening to this will have heard of Spotlight, but is this right? Basically, there was a case, Equity brought a case against Spotlight, and fundamentally Spotlight won.
Yeah, pretty much without question, they won it.
Yeah.
Effectively the case was that Equity claimed that Spotlight had a monopoly over the industry because they were the only place where you could get work. And Spotlight said, whilst that's true, we're not a job board, so we're a forum or something was the wording they used. Effectively said that they couldn't possibly have a monopoly because it's not the job that they actually do. That was the underpinning legal argument, which is fine, but you also charge people to use the platform, and on every single job you put in your terms and conditions for the job, and on some job postings they say if you've submit people and that you're agreeing to the contractual terms beforehand, which to me sounds very much like a job board.
If it quacks like a dog.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know how they got away with it, but it's a tricky one because we all use it, and they do have, if they want to accept that it's a monopoly or not, so be it. But they do have the monopoly over the industry because you need Spotlight to be able to access the jobs that your agent's going to submit you for. And that, to me, sounds like a monopoly. It doesn't mean that we need to have loads of different platforms, because then what you get is a really hard to work process and system. But it does need... It's never made sense to me that the onus for paying for the service falls on the person seeking the work, not the person advertising the work, making a profit from it.
Yes, I tell you what, actually, tangent though it may be, let's do this. So just because a lot of people listening to this are probably from kind of one-nighter show world.
Yeah. Okay,
so
cool.
And they may intentionally have always managed to avoid this Spotlight thing. So just tell me, give me your briefest, most swear word version. No, your briefest version. What is as it is currently, what is the current role of Spotlight? Why would you use it?
Spotlight is a place where, as an actor, you have access to auditions that a casting director wants to advertise.
Right. So hang on, I'm going to pause us right there.
Yeah.
So the purpose of it is there's a show, a job, or whatever, right? And a casting director who has been hired by said organization needs to let the industry know that the job exists. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right. Carry on. Sorry. So they put a post up on Spotlight.
Yeah. Spotlight gets that post up, and then that post is then shared to actors who are unrepresented. So they get it through their feed, agents who look after the actors, and that's pretty much it. And then the agents or the unrepresented actors have the ability to then send their CV through Spotlight to the casting team, who will then process that, call people in for auditions.
Great. And just out of interest, this is my sort of classic question that I'm using all the time in coaching now. What was it like before Instagram, or what was it like before Spotlight? Because the internet hasn't always existed. So how did it work before Spotlight existed?
So Spotlight has been around for quite a while now. I actually can't remember the initial date that it was.
1847.
God, was it really? No. What?
No, I'm joking. I'm
Jeez.
joking.
I'll tell you what, though, 1927. So it's been around a while.
Oh, my word. But it
Yeah.
wasn't. But it wasn't on the internet. So what was it
No.
before it was a website?
So before it was a website, it was Spotlight casting directory, which was a little bit like the yellow pages for actors. You can still find them online, I think, somewhere. I think I've got a few knocking around here somewhere. But they effectively, it was a book of actors' headshots and their agent, and that was it. Everyone every year would get posted to them a book, and then when people were casting things, I mean, this was way before my time, so this is my understanding of it. Effectively, there was a system where they would reach out to agents, or agents would reach out to them. They'd say, "We've been looking through the book and we want to call this person in," or "We've been looking through the book. We'd like to submit this person to you for interest."
So sorry. So if I've misheard, I'm sure you'll tell me straight away. But so originally, it was effectively a list of actors with headshots, which
Yeah.
casting directors would look at and say, "We'd like this person," or an agent could ring and say, "I know you've got Spotlight, the book in your hand. It's page number 47, right?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so what's happened is the opposite now, right? It's completely flipped. Now it's a list of opportunities.
Yeah.
Is that right?
And then yeah, pretty much. And then you send it out. I don't know if they had a jobs feed or whatever back in the day. I can't imagine they did. I imagine probably what happened more was, we're going to take this casting director to see our Sean Connery in a show, and then, they might want to cast Sean Connery in X, Y, and Z film or show or whatever it is. Yeah, I think the website Spotlight has been around for a while. Spotlight books, which were the yellow pages for actors' headshots, sort of phased out probably a while ago now as well. But yeah, they have a little look on eBay or wherever. There's still old copies of them there. They're pretty lovely, actually. They're lovely books. But yeah, that is effectively how Spotlight sort of started all those many, many years ago. And now we have the modern day iteration of it. So, as a company, they've been around for nearly 100 years now. So they, they've earned their, prestige. But whether or not they should have such a hold on the industry is a different question altogether.
I'm absolutely loving this, Matt. This is great. So, just out of interest, let's pretend I'm producing a one-nighter type touring show, right? And I've got some casting to do. I've got a cast for four singers, four singer actors, right? What? Why on earth would I go to Spotlight?
So let's say it's you're wanting to put your show on or whatever. So you would go to Spotlight and say, well, actually, no. You would either say, you could approach them and say, I've got this show that I've produced. I want to put a casting out for it. Can I please have a casting account and be my own casting director on it and put it out there myself? Or you would go through a casting director and say, can I put my show out? This is the breakdown. This is what I want to charge all the rest of it. What effectively it gives you as production company is access to however many actors are currently on Spotlight. I think at the minute, the last time I checked, but I will get you a hot off the press number. At the minute, unrepresented actors, there are 14,029. So that's unrepresented. And there are obviously thousands and thousands more who are represented. So you would immediately get access to all of them. So, let's say 50,000 actors. So if you were like, well, I've got this very specific thing, this very specific project that I want to cast, you will find your actor through there somewhere. And if it doesn't go to an actor on there, and you've obviously sent it to all the agents on there, then that agent may have somebody who's not on Spotlight, who they could then email you and say, seen your post, I have this person, they're too big for Spotlight, so we're just let's have a chat. And and then that's how you would then find your people. You often find, especially for big projects, they may have two leading roles. There's a TV series coming up very soon involving a magical boy and his friends at Hogwarts. And the casting for that went out, and obviously all the parts, but you knew for certain parts, so they had like Harry, Hermione, and all the rest of them, who were new actors or newish actors kind of coming through the system. And then people who are being played by more experienced or those kind of actors were not on the same breakdown, because they would have gone directly to the agents, or they would be hidden off for other agents to see. Because that's the other thing you get, is you can filter which agents receive your breakdowns. So let's say you wanted to send your film out to, and you were casting a 6-year-old or something in your film. There's no point sending that to all the adult agencies, so you're going to send it to the kids agencies. That's the basics of it. But let's say you're casting for, I don't know, next Jamie Lloyd play, and you want some really prestigious actors or actors with a lot of experience. So you're going to go to agencies who you know are reputable. So you're going to go to, you might select all PMA agencies, or you might also go for like a few agencies you know personally. And you can filter it so only they see it, and the other agents then don't see it. If that makes sense.
It makes all the sense and none of the sense at the same time, doesn't it? So that's so interesting, isn't it? This is part of a talk/rant that I occasionally get to do for people, which is, I wonder if that is a mutation of the pick me problem, right?
Okay.
So if I, as originally trained as a musician, right?
Yeah.
So if I decide to put a show together, or whatever, right? An opportunity for actors or performers to get paid, right? I need some of those people. What I do is I ring you and I say, hi, I need this. What do you reckon? Because and that is if I don't already know people that I want to be on my thing right now. I assume that's why we have casting companies, casting directors, because I, the producer, don't know everybody in every possible version of a character. So we
Yeah.
go to the casting agencies. Except it turns out the casting agencies don't know those people either. So they go to an agent.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine. Except it turns out maybe the casting agents don't do that. What they do is, this is the pick me problem. It's a status thing, isn't it? It's at every stage of the creation of this thing, people are having to apply and ask to be chosen by someone else above them. So people have got to get an agent. Then the agent has to go through this thing with spotlight and but then also with the casting director, but then also with the producer and the director. And it's too many. There's slightly too many layers, aren't there, of please pick me.
Yeah. It's a real, it's a tangible thing, because when we started, we probably got 10 to 15, maybe 20 breakdowns a day, whereas now we're at kind of 60 or 70 breakdowns a day. So it's tangible and you can physically see it. And I see breakdowns that we get that friends who are maybe 2 or 3 years into the industry aren't receiving. But it then causes issues, because you might say, oh, I don't know, have you seen the breakdown for X, Y, and Z? And they've gone, oh, I didn't see that. And then you realise, oh, heck, I've just said something that you maybe can't see and I can see. But you're right, it is. It's the pick me thing, and you're always battling to be picked by the person above you for the next thing. And even now so we've just brought on the voiceover agent Rodney, who's fantastic. But that is the ultimate level of pick me, because a lot of their breakdowns don't go on Spotlight. So he's directly reaching out to companies, effectively saying, pick me. Please send me the breakdown for the jobs so I can send you actors to audition for the jobs. Please.
Right. Part of me wonders whether that's better, because in him reaching out directly to a company, he is creating a relationship directly. He's skipped a layer of pick me. There's no 2 layers. There's no spotlight and there's no casting person. It's an agent who says, I have these people. I know these people. I know what they're great at. I know what they're perfect for, blah, blah, blah. I know when they're available, all of this stuff.
Yeah,
Going
it's an
direct,
interesting.
going directly to a company, you've taken out two layers of things that need to be paid for, which
Yeah,
means which means more of that money can go to the people that are actually doing the thing.
yeah. You've removed costs, which is always a good thing. So, yeah,
Yeah. Wow. 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 Okay. So, um, that's very interesting. So that's their big challenges both for agents and also for clients in getting works. Let's call it, we've named them often enough. Let's call it the structure of the current system is
nice.
unhelpful sometimes. Okay.
Yes.
Um, so those are things that are challenges. What about some things that might count as myths? What are some big myths, whether it's for how people do agent work or for clients? What are
Yeah.
some big myths in the industry that you think might be holding people back? What are some things that maybe were true in 1978, but actually just aren't true now?
That you need an agent to succeed as a performer. Um, yeah, I think so much weight's put on getting an agent, and I understand it. Yeah, for certain jobs, yeah, you absolutely do need an agent and all the rest of it. But is there an element of it that you can actually just do it yourself if you maybe don't get representation or you just don't want representation? Probably, yeah. Um, and look, there's no skill that I have that somebody can't learn as well who's an actor. Like, if you want to learn about employment law, then get an employment law book and learn it. Like, Google's there. It's a fantastic tool. If you want to learn about contract law or um, invoice law or any of that stuff and how to use it to protect yourself as a performer, then you can totally do that. Like, yeah, that's super, super easy. Um, so yeah, I think people almost put agents on a pedestal sometimes and go, well, that's the only way I can get into this industry. But I also think there's an aspect of it you have to sort of sit and reflect and go, actually, what do I want from the industry? Do I want to be famous? Do I want to make lots of money? Do I just want to be creative? Am I quite happy if I'm just singing with my guitar in a pub on like a Friday night? Like, everyone's different, and that's totally fine. If you want to make loads of money, that's totally fine. If you want to be TikTok famous, also fine. Like, but you have to be realistic about what you want to be. And that's realistic in terms of that's my goal. I'm going to go for it. And an agent isn't the key to that. That's just something you do yourself. So yeah, I think agents are not the be all and end all. And I also think the myth around having to go to a London drama school, I just don't think it exists anymore. I think there's so many talented people from around the world in particular, but also not going to London drama schools who are just as successful. Um, Sure, it might take them a bit longer, or there might be barriers along the way, but they're still successful and still working in town and tour and film and TV. So yeah, I think that myth is long gone. It's always interesting as well. I literally had this conversation this morning with a friend of mine, who's an agent, who had a client who a big agency was trying to poach, and I was sort of saying, isn't it always interesting these huge agencies have this idea about London drama schools and you can only go to a London drama school. But the minute you get a good performer who's not from there, they're banging at the door trying to take them from you. Always an interesting one.
Yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it? And we, in our sort of prep conversation for this recording, we did talk quite a lot, didn't we, about maybe things are going to start devolving to creatively and commercially more
Mm.
regionally now.
Yeah, 100%. Well, you see more and more things being filmed in Manchester or Liverpool or Bristol or Cardiff. Like, not everything is in London. And famously, actually, filming stuff in particular isn't in London because it's too expensive. So yeah, it's an interesting one, and more you're seeing casting directors who are almost picking up the work in other areas where they realise we've got a gap here and we can fill that with some casting. Claire Catterton is always casting for things in Scotland, just pretty much has that in like a bit of advice. Lee Mountjoy always doing things in Manchester, so it's an interesting one.
It's fantastic. Thank you. What other kinds of things that separate the the clients that get the best results from your relationship against the ones that just do okay? Is there something, what could you say was the difference that maybe makes the difference?
The people who are the most proactive in pushing their own career always succeed more than the ones who expect it to be given to them. Um, yeah, the more you can push and strive to either make your own work, audition for your own stuff, make those connections with casting teams, then the more you're going to work. It really is just as simple as that. And the more you can be self-critical of yourself as well. If you go into an audition and you get cut first round, the problem wasn't the audition, you were the problem. Like something happened that you did that wasn't right, and that is fine, like absolutely fine. It's not at the end of the day, it's only an audition. But use it as a chance to then go, okay, cool, well, it didn't go well. What did I do wrong? Or what could I do better next time? Rather than just going, oh, I think I did really well, but I got cut. Well, that you didn't do that well, did you? Because currently we're not sat here with a job, are we? So didn't go that well. So it's a real tricky one. The people who are the best performers that I look after are the ones who come out of an audition and go, you know what, I had a great time, but that didn't go very well, and this is why. And next time I will be better, or next time I will do something different. So they're the ones I really like. Anyone who goes, especially in the era of self-tapes, I have a few clients who I know I could send a tape to at 10 o'clock at night and I'll have it back at 9 o'clock in the morning, who I know are reliable. And ultimately, sometimes, especially with casting teams and commercials, that is super important because I want to be able to go to a casting team straight away and say, yep, that person we will get that audition back for you. Like if you send us an audition, we'll sort it. So yeah, those sort of things, proactive, reliable, easy communicators. The worst thing you can do is just don't communicate with me. If you're suddenly going to go on holiday and I don't know about it, that's an actual issue. Not the issue you're going away on holiday, but like the issue you haven't told me, because I could send you an audition and you're in, Ireland on holiday and you're like, oh, I haven't got any of my self-taping kit. And
Yeah, that's interesting. And it's funny that you mentioned at the start of the conversation, you mentioned the sort of the client sort of welfare thing and dealing with rejection. And then you also mentioned, I suppose you could think of it as being like the other side of that same coin, isn't it? Which is you've got to be able to positively sort of take rejection in your stride or reframe it as something other than rejection. And then on the other side of that coin is also to be, as the sort of self-reflective. It's having people putting themselves in a position where you can take both perspectives, isn't it? It's, I didn't get that and that's okay. And I'm still fully valuable as a person and a professional. And now I need to go and do the same thing at a different audition this afternoon.
yeah,
And at the same time, in the same breath, be able to go, I got cut from the dance corps because I haven't been to class for a month
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's a really valuable skill, that self-reflection. And it will probably actually make it a lot easier because you can always give yourself feedback, rather than relying on the feedback of somebody else, because it's all opinion. So it doesn't, one cat's narrator's opinion doesn't make or break you as a performer.
Yeah, and also just from what people have said, people that are in that sort of more audition world have said to me in the past, it's not like one casting director for one job is going to be consistent with the next one for the next job. I mean, obviously they're going to be looking for different things because they're different jobs, but also they're different people. And um, yes, that ability to self-reflect honestly and sort of humanely, like in a positive way, so
Yeah.
that you then take action. You've got to do it in a way, haven't you? So that you identify what a possible area for improvement might be.
Yeah.
And then you feel good about taking action on that thing rather than feeling so awful about it that you don't want to look at it again.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And the same applies to agents and us as individual. We are effectively doing our job, but there's always room for improvement or things that aren't going right. And you almost, if something goes wrong, we deal with it and then we reflect on it afterwards and go, what could we have done better? Or what can we do next time? And what do we need to put in place to make sure that we can do it better next time? And that is where your as a business, your business systems come in. And, this year for showcase season, we had a whole new system of how we deal with showcases and dealing with actor representation and stuff so that things don't get lost along the way. Because, we deal with, I think, some point this year, we've had about 500, 600 meetings with actors across all the agents, which is a lot. And then you want to track that and make sure everything's okay. So reflecting back, we've then gone, well, it didn't work very well last year, so what can we do this year to make it better and implement a system to help each other as agents go, cool, okay, yeah, we've met with that person, we're doing that one, this one's where it's at, that's where it's at. So yeah, it's one of those things. It's not solely the actors that have to reflect. We can be doing the same thing. As in an industry, that's kind of what we should all be doing anyway, is reflecting and going, that didn't go very well, but how can we make it better, sort of thing.
You've mentioned there this sort of self-reflection and the proactive thing that is an indicator of how well people working with an agent might do. And
Yeah.
the next thing that I'm wondering from that is, if someone aspires to representation, and let's say specifically with you, for all the many good reasons there are to want that, but perhaps they're, maybe they're just starting studying or something, or maybe they're not quite at the stage where they're ready to work with you yet. What are the top things they should be doing, maybe to kind of be in a good position to work with you in the future?
I think being critical of your own CV headshots, you control the controllables, actually, is probably the one bit of advice that I could give. You can't control what my opinion of your performing will be. You can't control what a casting director is going to do. Can't control the jobs. What you can control is your CV and your headshot, and everything that's part of that. So get a good headshot, get something that's reflective of you, and get something that says, these are the sort of jobs that I want to go for. Because the first thing that we look at is someone's headshot. It's at the top of every CV. It's at the top of every application. And if it's not good, then rightly or wrongly, we have so many people who apply these days that actually we kind of just get rid of it straight away, because I don't have enough time to look after my own clients and work through all the representation requests. For perspective on numbers, last week we had 185 applications for representation. And, we're not into talent or global, so I imagine they get even more. That's a lot of people for every agent to look through and process and figure out if there's a space on their book. So yeah, it's one of those ones. Headshot's really important. Make sure you go for a headshot photographer who understands the industry, who you can stay and sit down with and go, I want to be going for musicals, I want to be going for TV, film, whatever it is. And then they go, great, let's style your headshots in that way. Or have a look at what headshots they've done in the past, because someone, like, I don't know, like mug photography, for example, very musical theatre, Yellow Belly, pretty musical theatre. Someone like Roger Whitlock or Daniel Travat, Tom Travat, very actor TV. So all fantastic headshot photographers, but there's a variation there. So do that. Make sure your CV is reflective of what you've actually done. Make sure your credits are up to date. Make sure your About Me section's up to date. Talk about what you've recently done. Tell me about, if you're in training, say you're in training. If you've got special skills, whether that's, and be realistic about them. If you rode a horse once when you were 5, then don't put it on there. If you're a horse rider, great, shove it on there. Showreel wise, again, it varies depending on what you're going for. If you're going for musical theatre, the expectation is you can sing, dance, and act, because that's what's in a musical. So make sure you showcase singing, dancing, and acting. And look, dance wise, we want to see technique, and that is proper technique. So like lines, turns, jumps, partner work, and then in between that, mix in some performance stuff. So, 10 seconds of technique, 20 seconds of performance, throw in some tricks, throw in some bits. If you've got any skills like aerial or something, show that off. Singing wise, 4 songs at 32 bars, pretty much spot on. And I think people kind of worry so much about show reels that they go, well, I've put this one here at the start, but then actually my best one is like 20 seconds in. They put the best one at the start because I'm probably going to watch about 10 seconds. And a casting director would watch even less. So get my attention straight away because that will make me keep it on in the background. Um, yeah, that first 10-second hook almost is probably the best way to describe it. So yeah, and then acting wise, people always worry with the acting stuff in particular about I've got to have this great scene with like a duologue that's been filmed professionally. But actually, some of the best ones I've seen are a monologue in a room with a camera set up for a front shot and maybe one at the side for an upward side shot. And they have thought and processed this is the mood of the piece. This is what I'm doing. So I'm going to set the lighting and the tone and the camera angles to fit that. And I'm going to edit it in a way that when the emotion or the mood changes, or the scene's been going on for 10 seconds, I'm going to flick the camera angle because it's then going to keep the attention of whoever's watching it. That alone is more powerful than me and watching you and your fake husband having a fight over the dinner table. Yeah, I think there's something about that. And keeping it simple with monologues. Things like Keth is such a good play and so good for monologues. Um, yeah, yeah, they're my kind of like things and my sort of ones that I look out for. And then cover letter wise, short and simple. Tell me who you are, what do you want, why us, and that will do me. And if you're in a play or a show, or if you've got recent things you've worked on, then put that in there and say, I'm in a play. I would love for you to come, or you know, make it worthwhile the kind of time that goes into them. Um, yeah, that would be kind of the way to get the attention. Short, simple, but professional and well structured.
Yeah, that was a very detailed sort of breakdown, wasn't it? Of, I guess the basics of what to send in when you're looking for representation. Thank you. Broadening things out a little bit now, before we kind of head to wrap it up, I guess. From where you sit as an agent, thinking about the ecosystem as a whole. So, and let's do this. Let's do this across entertainment in total. What could we all be doing to work better together?
Think, and the initial bit sounds a bit wanky, but we'll go there. I think we could just be a little bit nicer to each other. I think we don't need to have this elitist, closed off aura around us that currently we have. I think, yes, whilst we're busy, so is everyone else in the world. Like, make time to have the phone call, go see the shows, explore new talent that isn't just from London. And allow more actors the chance to be auditioning for you. If you work in casting, you're in an extremely privileged position of you basically control who goes in and out of that room, but you also have a responsibility to allow as much talent in that room as possible, not the same talent just over and over and over again. I also think like a diversification of the agents who are the most successful, but again, that comes down to casting directors allowing different agents to allow their clients into the room, actors and agents and casting and producers and everyone not having such a hostility to helping others, or just those friends. I've met plenty of lovely agents over, especially this showcase season, actually, who have just started or kind of starting out and wanted to kind of learn and get their foot in the door. And having a willingness to sort of sit with them for a drink or something is a really nice way, one, to find out about new people and meet new people, but also to kind of help them on their creative or whatever you want to call it journey. But I also think that actually, if you've got something you're passionate about, sticking to that is really important. Yeah, we absolutely could look after 300 clients, sure. And I could shove them all on a cruise ship and I could retire very happily to a beach in the Bahamas, probably in about 3 years' time. That would be lovely. But actually, it's not what I made the agency for. It's not where we sit as agents. And I think there's nothing wrong with having that supportive nature to kind of to you as a person. So yeah, I think just being a little bit kinder to each other in a world that's not very kind at the minute, in particular. I think that can really make us be much stronger as an industry.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Obviously, a lot of the work that you do is aimed at these people want these sorts of bigger contract type roles, don't they? Whether it's a TV role or whatever. A lot of the people, as I think I mentioned, that might be listening to this or watching this are in that kind of like one nightery theatre
Mm.
type of world. So, just out of interest, what would some of the ways that a management company, specifically your company,
Yeah,
um, what would some of the ways that they could help someone producing that kind of work? Because I guess there's probably a split over the industry, isn't there, between people, say, producers of those things that they'll call their mates that they've used on other shows in the past to do things, which makes loads of sense for
yeah,
lots of good
100%.
reasons. And and if they were looking for support in producing their next thing, where could Roberts and Day come in?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. People go to people they know, don't they? Because as a producer, in particular, a producer, you want your show, let's say, to be successful, and that means getting good talent and also agents who you know aren't going to make your life too tricky. Like you're going to have a good working relationship. It's all going to be okay. They're going to be reliable. Going to answer their emails and whatever. Um, as an agency, your job is almost to try and make those relationships happen. And as an agency, pushing actors forward is almost your entire job, alongside the other bits. But ultimately, you should be pushing, developing, helping your actors with the chance to be in the rooms, to make the connections themselves, to help their own careers. And, ultimately, if you do a good enough job and that actor is successful, you've got a good enough relationship with them that when the big agencies turn up and go, "Oh, would you like to come and sign with us over at Global or wherever?" Then they go, "Actually, no, I'm all right because this agent's looked after me really well." And like, look, it's happened. I have a fantastic actress who I've looked after now for 6, 7 years. When she started with me, she had just left her old agent, who was quite a big agency, and we definitely weren't at the time, and had sort of said that she was never going to do very much past this holiday park that she's doing. So I was like, fine, whatever. A friend of mine was like, you should really check out this girl. She's great. Didn't go to a drama school, went to a uni. Met with her, we made a plan, said, all right, cool, let's go for that plan. So we got her some work, some like workshops and jobs, and she sort of started doing it. And then when she'd finished her first like a children's tour thing, like that was okay, cool, touring experience. We've got it. Then I went to a casting director who I knew from a while back, and I said, look, I've got this girl, no experience, but she's just finished her tour, so she knows how to tour. She's got a cracking voice. And you know what? She's just genuinely a nice human being. And in a world of divas and egos, actually what you want is the person who's just nice. And he was like, all right, fine, yeah, call her in. Called her in, didn't get anywhere. And then the next show he called me and was like, oh, is she still free? I was like, yeah, yeah, she's free. And he then called her in again and she ended up booking the job. So she did that. She did the SpongeBob tour. And then when she finished on the SpongeBob tour, she'd kind of been in with another casting director a few times, hadn't really got anywhere, or got like through to finals and they've not booked it. Tina in Town came out. She'd been in for it before and got it. But this time she'd obviously got a #1 touring credit. So she ended up booking that. And then she's ticked off West End. Now she's just finished in Pieces at the Other Palace. And now she's about to go into something else at the Palladium. So yes, if you know your shows, then you'll know what that is. But yeah, so it's one of those ones where, as an agent, you should be. Whenever she's doing something, I'll bring someone from casting or someone who can then help her with the next step of the journey. Because in my head, I'm thinking we've spoken, and I know what your plan is and what you want to achieve. So I'm going to bring a casting director with me who will meet you, who can then go, great, I'll call you in for the next things. And yeah, that's how I, as an agent, work, is that we will have a conversation and be like, I'm going to invite someone who's going to help you progress your career. And, she's had plenty of people come knocking on the doors and be like, why with them? They're not that big. They're not, especially back in the day. Um, and it is one of those ones where it's quite scary because you're thinking, oh, okay, you kind of need this person to stay on. But actually, if you just do a good job and you do right by your clients, and ultimately, and what I kind of say to people is when you're picking an agent, because you've got loads of choice, if it's somebody you can call at 6 o'clock on a Friday and your life is crumbling around you and you can just have someone friendly to talk to, go with that agent. Doesn't matter how big or small they are, because I promise you, when you're starting and you're making 100 quid or whatever, you're paying a 12.5% commission. Sure, they're getting 12.50. Great, fantastic. When you're earning 10 grand, suddenly that 12.5% looks a lot more appealing. And you want to be paying it to an agent who has your back, not somebody who just wants your pocket. So yeah, I think that's super, super important. And something that I instill with all my agents is to build relationships with their clients. They're professional, but also if they need a hand, or if they're having a panic, or they're worrying, or if they're going through something because life gets in the way, then actually you can be there. And I've been to clients' weddings and baptisms and all sorts of things where I've seen, it's weird. You go to these things and people say, "Oh, who are you?" And you're like, "Oh, I'm actually their agent." And yes, I am at this baptism. So, hello everyone. But yeah, they're lovely, and I think it's super important. And I think that's probably one of the more privileged things about being an agent is, yeah, you get to have all this lovely stuff, but actually developing and creating and helping somebody build a career is absolutely fantastic. And when you finally get to be able to give them the news of, yeah, congrats, like you got this. And we just got a call this morning for somebody to go on pencil for a job. Um, he wasn't he wasn't on Spotlight. He's never performed professionally. He's done like amateur work. Somebody recommended him to us. Chloe signed him. And then his first audition, he's like now on pencil for it. And for him in particular, someone who's really struggled with his personal life and mental health and all the rest of it, what an amazing thing to be able to then go, actually, I've just booked this job that's just turned my life around. Um, and yeah, I think that's like by far the biggest pleasure that you can get as a person is to see somebody else succeed and you just have like a tiny little smidgen of part of that. So yeah, I feel incredibly proud of all my clients and the work they do. Um, yeah, and they effectively, I know I sort of say it quite a lot, but the agency wouldn't really be the agency without them, if that makes sense. Like ultimately we're just people sat behind a computer doing some emails. Like, there's nothing about that. Whereas they're the ones who are going into the rooms, doing the auditions, doing the job, and then also, are lovely about us and say nice things about us, which has helped us then build a business and, you know, allowed us to do it full time and be paid for it. So yeah, it's fantastic. I'm very lucky to have them.
Oh, Matt, that's fantastic. Thank you. If there was one question you wish I'd asked you,
Mm.
what would that be?
Um, One thing that I have learned um, over my time being an agent, or actually just working professionally. Um, yeah. Would you
Yeah.
like me to answer it as well?
No, I just wanted to know what
I
the
can do.
question was and
Yeah.
call it a day there. Yeah. No, go on, Matt. Yeah. So tell me.
Why not? Um, I was always very scared of making mistakes, and I now embrace them more than kind of fear them. Um, I think you can learn a lot from them. I also think, especially in this industry, we're painted with this "you have to be perfect all the time" mentality. Whereas we're human beings, we make mistakes, and we balls it up. We don't always get it right, and people can get hurt along the way, and that's totally fine. But it's not fine. But you can learn from those things, and I think that's really important. I think owning and dealing with them makes you a stronger person, and it might not seem it at the time, but actually it can really benefit you down the line. I definitely know it has for me, and 21-year-old, 22-year-old me made hundreds of mistakes. And now 10 years later, I can look back and go, yeah, okay, was that the right thing to do? Was they? Probably not. Has that had repercussions in my life? Yeah, but no one died. So it's fine. We'll just kind of, yeah, we'll kind of deal with it and go on there. But no, it's, yeah, I think learning from my own mistakes is a really valuable thing that I've kind of matured into and picked up as an adult. So yeah.
That's great, Matt. And finally, before we close up, where can people learn more about you and Roberts and Day and all of that good stuff? Where's the best place for them to go?
So website's normally pretty good. It's got everything on there. You can see us, the team, what they've all done. You can see all the clients, you can see the news, what's going on in the agency in general. My email is also always open, albeit it does get busy, but I do try to reply, I promise, to as many people as possible. So feel free to drop me an email. My contact details are on the website. And then if you are interested in representation, if you go onto the contact section of the email of the website, there's a little link there. You just fill that out, and effectively it comes through one of our systems, and we all look at it and sort of slowly go through them as they kind of come in. So, yeah, please do. Please feel free to reach out.
That is fantastic. Matt Roberts, thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening, and thanks for whatever you do to make live entertainment happen. If you'd like to be notified when there's a new episode and stay up to date with the podcast, you can sign up for the Entertainment Matters Q Sheet at the link in the description. Have a great show.